Okay, so since this is the Sunday sermon, I will keep to time. I've got about a half hour, a lot to take you through, and I hope this is of use for you. And I'm just going to kick it off. So today's sermon's around Satoshi's Bitcoin. Why? So if you are new to the group, welcome. And if you're new to the Bitcoin world, welcome. And the reason why I titled today's talk to be about why Satoshi's Bitcoin, it's because there's a lot of folks who, especially in the Bitcoin space, in the crypto space, that has become a lot more around brand loyalty. If you've been in the space for a while and you follow Twitter, Reddit forums, a lot of the public social media chatter, you'll see that a lot of folks are taking their brand loyalty very, very seriously, and it's quite interesting to see. Some folks are already comparing the Bitcoin landscape to religious themes, or how religion, or organized religion, shall we say, went through a point in time where it became very organized and then started splitting off into denominations. And as mentioned in my last sermon, this is why I've also taken on this sort of religious theme and just rolling with it, more for entertainment purposes. But it really does give a good analogy for how everything is changing in this landscape. So for Satoshi, once again, if you are not familiar with who Satoshi is, Satoshi Nakamoto is the original creator of Bitcoin. All right, and that's BTC. That's the ticker that everyone uses to refer to the current Bitcoin that most people know. And he laid out the plans for that around 2009 after the global financial crisis in 2008. And it was pretty much a very good time in our history for something like Bitcoin to come out. And it came out as a result of corruption, banks mismanaging money. But yeah, essentially Satoshi was the founding father for Bitcoin, and then also, because it was very much open source in the early days, then had a lot of other original developers get involved with the creation of Bitcoin. Now, fast forward to today, Bitcoin has gone through a lot of changes, resulting in one very significant change, which was essentially a split off to a new chain called Bitcoin Cash. Just a note to anyone who is watching and is new to this landscape, Bitcoin Cash, I believe, is more in line with the original Satoshi vision. And you'll hear me talk a lot about Bitcoin Cash. That is my bias, so that's a note. But as you're learning more about the landscape, please take my own biases with a grain of salt, and remember to always do your own research. The reason why I believe in Bitcoin Cash is because of how much closer to the original Satoshi vision I feel that it is. And for that reason, when I am explaining Bitcoin, I'm explaining it in terms of Satoshi and Satoshi's original vision for Bitcoin. All right. So there is a lot of people do think that Satoshi's identity is still a mystery. And if you think about it, the narrative of Satoshi and the whole Bitcoin world, it actually works better with a mysterious, unknown identity, just from a storytelling perspective. But the fact of the matter is, and people will dispute this, is that the identity of Satoshi has been revealed once before. There have been many different claims to it, but there is one particular figure by the name of Dr. Craigus Wright, who is probably at the head of the list of potential Satoshi candidates. And I personally believe that he is, and I'm happy to make a stand on that, just because of my own interactions with him over the last year, and when we first met or connected back in 2013. And the only way we connected was because we were both featured in a documentary called The Bitcoin Doco back in 2013. But the more and more you listen to him, the more and more you really start to believe that he is the creator of Bitcoin. But to set the record straight, it doesn't matter whether he is or not, because what matters most is the idea of the decentralized Bitcoin or blockchain and how that can enable a lot for a lot of people around the world. And instead of me trying to explain it, earlier last week on Tuesday at my workplace, so by day I work for a place called Iris. They're a financial tech company. And I along with a few others at work, put together our first Future Cryptos event. And luckily enough, I was able to get Craig Wright to live stream in from the UK. Now, the reason I put this together is obviously because as a financial tech company, and just a note, all the views that I express are not of Iris's. They are my own, but I do love, telling people about Iris. But on Tuesday, with that event, it was really an opportunity to, educate folks within Iris about the Bitcoin landscape and cryptocurrencies in general, and also help Iris really put itself in front in terms of being innovative and ahead of the pack with this particular space. But Craig Wright, when he live streamed in, had some very interesting views and opinions around Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, and the future of it. And for those who were fortunate enough to be at the event and watch and listen, we had a few secrets revealed as to what to expect in the coming months and years. And this is why I urge all of you who are just entering this Bitcoin space to make sure that you, of course, one, do your own due diligence, and then two, follow the right people. Personally, I feel that Craig Wright is one of those folks that you should follow, at least on Twitter, or at least through the company that he is part of called nChain. And I'm just going to play a video for you from the event of him talking about the real purpose of Bitcoin and why I get inspired by it and what got me inspired by Bitcoin in the early days, for which BTC has kind of gone down a different path, and why Bitcoin Cash, BCH, has kind of taken the mantle of Satoshi's Bitcoin. So let me play that for you. Just going to share my screen, and hopefully you can see this.
The rich don't need Bitcoin. The poor do. Bitcoin is not for people with a shitload of money, the only way to put it. I already can transfer millions instantly. I can buy gold instantly. The poor cannot even send their money slowly right now. Hawala networks, each hop costs money. Remittance networks, everything costs money. It can be $40 from someone without a bank account in the Philippines to send back remittances back to their family when they earn $100 a month. That is disgusting. Bitcoin will make that a fraction of a cent. It will make it instantaneous. It will make it just flow. That's what it's about. That is the real aspect of this. Not people in large corporations making more. Billions of people globally trading, interacting, and saving without having fear of losing their money, without corruption. When I went through places like Ghana, if you had money, people took it. If they didn't know you had money, you survived. If you hid money under your mattress, people took it. Bitcoin allows you to have your own sovereignty because you can transfer instantly and live and get away with things. And if you need to leave a country, as happens all the time in places like Africa, you can without losing what you have. It is critical. We have 7 billion, and by 2050, 9 billion people on this earth. And right now, today, 4.5 billion of those are being milked by the system. Those 4.5 billion people are, for the first time in human history, going to have access to their own financial freedom and sovereignty. Why do we need fees? Because we have a world that needs low fees, that needs people to be able to transact and needs financial security. That's Bitcoin.
So yeah, that was Craig Wright. He got really passionate. That was about an hour into the panel discussion that we had. And if you're actually wanting to view the rest of that particular talk, I'm just going to include the link here. So let's see if I can make that white. Once again, guys, I am using a new piece of software. So it's blue. I don't know why it's blue. Probably because it is it's a link. So anyways, I want to keep that up for a little bit. If you can screenshot this or, just copy and paste that now. And perhaps I'll actually put this into the comments later so you can have a look. So yeah, in that discussion, we talked a lot about Bitcoin Cash, the true purpose of Bitcoin. And, when he was going on about how it's not really meant for the West, not to say that we won't benefit from it, but what he means to say is that, because of our economic advantages in the West, we can use the financial gains that we get from it to actually power the Bitcoin network and system, which will then have a ripple effect onto the developing nations of the world. And as someone who lived overseas and traveled around a lot, this really appeals to me. And the whole idea, the libertarian view of kind of making nation states irrelevant really appeals to me as well. Because at the moment we see that a lot of our nation-based rules, policies, laws makes it very difficult to actually work together with others. And that's not uncommon. A lot of folks do look to protect themselves. But I think as we become increasingly globalized and we are traveling in between different countries, I really see Bitcoin and a lot of these other decentralized currencies allowing us to step into sort of a truly global community whereby our systems and our means for transacting are actually set up for that. Because if you look at the evolution of a lot of our nation states and empires, etc., we've never really had a situation where we've had something like the internet that really does connect all of us all around the world, but then supported by the financial systems that are set up for that as well. So to me, Bitcoin is a natural evolution, a natural progression in the story of money that allows people to be able to transact with each other at the speed of light without having to wait 2-3 days for money to be transferred, when really it is just numbers on a screen. And as was mentioned, it's about unbanking the banks, right? And allowing people who don't have bank accounts, which is about 2.5 billion, I believe, according to the World Bank, 2.5 billion who don't have bank accounts and who can't save. And that's appealing. That is something worth getting behind. So because Craig Wright really does believe in that, and because I've been fortunate enough to be able to interact with him personally, there's no doubt in my mind that is the vision that is going to help carry a chain like Bitcoin Cash far into the future, as opposed to some of the other chains who have some very awesome technical visions, but not necessarily ones that are tied to socio-political issues. And I see Craig Wright as a really holistic thinker, and I'm really drawn to holistic thinkers, people who don't just see one element, they see many and they connect them all together. So that's why Satoshi's Bitcoin. Now I'm going to share my screen again with y'all. So we had, all right. So just showing you a bit from the Twitter sphere. This video has been shared around quite a lot as well, the one that I just shared with you. And this one, this is a retweet. The rich don't need Bitcoin, the poor do. I already can transfer millions instantly. The poor cannot even send their money slowly right now. And one bit that wasn't showed in that video was a question by somebody who is from India and who had a very good question around okay, if I need to send money to my family right now, and I do it via Western Union, I know that if I send it that money, $100 that I send now, okay, minus the fees, they'll get roughly that $100 in rupees in India. But if you send Bitcoin, within maybe minutes or hours or even days, like the Bitcoin value can change. So what's to guarantee someone that that volatility, doesn't affect somebody on the other side? And I think Craig Wright was also trying to explain that essentially time to stabilize, right? Like, because this is such a Wild West ecosystem right now, the value of Bitcoin and all the other cryptocurrencies, they're finding their place in the world, and it will stabilize over time. We're going up against, fiat currency, which has been around for centuries now, and we are also going up against Visa, MasterCard, and that's really the real battle between cryptocurrencies and folks like Visa, MasterCard, which sometimes a lot of folks seem to forget. So this was shared on Reddit. So I do recommend, if you're in this space and if you're willing to put in the hours and to really learn and understand, then I suggest you follow, key people on Twitter and on Reddit. I spend a lot of my time and a lot of my hours listening in on the conversations within Twitter and Reddit and Slack as well, Slack forums. And this is how I'm able to get my signals as to where Bitcoin Cash will be or go soonish, or where even other ICOs or cryptocurrencies and how they'll do. And that's where I spend a lot of my time. I spend a lot of time also reading up on white papers. I spend a lot of time just analyzing now everything there is to know about this crypto ecosystem. And another area that's important to take note of when it comes to Satoshi's Bitcoin is this whole difficulty adjustment aspect and mining profitability. So if you're wondering what I'm referring to, if you're a newbie, when it comes to mining, essentially, in order for Bitcoin to stay decentralized, essentially the network needs to have as many miners as possible. So, all right. So with the mining side, there was something that took place recently called a difficulty adjustment, a DAA, or an emergency difficulty adjustment. And for Bitcoin Cash, that came in the form of something called a hard fork. And in the previous sermon, I talked about hard forks being similar to how, if we use religion again as an analogy, how the Protestants split off from the Catholics or the Catholic Church. That was a contentious hard fork. However, when hard forks take place, usually they should take place. But essentially what I'm looking at the moment is the mining profitability between BTC, which is Bitcoin, all right, and we'll call it Bitcoin Core or Bitcoin. Bitcoin Cash currently is mining a lot more profitably than BTC, Bitcoin. And over the last week since the difficulty adjustment, you'll see here it is mining at 1.41 times the original Bitcoin or BTC chain, which is really good long-term for Bitcoin Cash. And this is something to take notice of, because over time this means less wild swings in Bitcoin Cash and more investor confidence. And I suspect it'll take about 3 weeks before we really see the benefits of this adjustment take place. And the reason why I say 3 weeks is because there's this guy named Clif High, and his site is horrible, I gotta tell you, right? It does look like something from the 90s, but his content is superb. He invented something back in '93, something called predictive linguistics, which essentially takes large volumes of data across the internet in public forums and it analyzes the languaging around certain sets and subsets. And I actually purchased his reports, and I've been doing so for the last 2 to 3 months now. And I use it as a way to gauge sort of points within the crypto landscape and timing, to time myself pretty well. And the whole basis essentially goes to behavioral economics and making the assumption that a lot of what happens in the markets is very much emotionally based, and it's not solely number based. So if we take that into account, or if we use that as an underlying assumption, if you can look at sort of the growing trends of words and phrases within the public ecosphere, then you can actually make a lot better predictions about what's going to be coming up. And so as a result of that, I just finished reading his November to December report. I still highly recommend you buy this if you are interested in this space. But he did say that there's a sort of 3-week window where we will see sort of spikes or surges in perhaps areas or cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin Cash and various other altcoins. So there's a whole bunch of other things that I came across as well, or I learned after reading the report, which also has to do with the sort of growing trend at the moment of deep secrets revealed. So in the report, Clif High talks a lot about, and all copyright goes to Clif High, but in the report he does talk about, he keeps talking about something called deep secrets revealed that keeps showing up in his data sets. And what this refers to, if you've been paying attention to the media recently, is a lot of secrets coming out from a lot of traditional institutions, traditional conglomerates, and a good example of this is Hollywood. You know, there's been a lot of rape allegations coming up, and essentially, according to the predictive linguistics, a lot of this will be coming out even more from now and through to about end of next year, maybe even 2020. And all of this stuff that's coming out right now is going to have huge impacts on our collective consciousness over the next decade. So he talks about, the word he uses is residue. So essentially what this means is as the old traditional institutions start to fall apart and break down, and we're already seeing this, it will mean that a lot of folks will be making their way into the new, which is where you see cryptocurrencies. So the cryptocurrency market is here to stay. It's just, I think what a lot of people are scared of is, you know, investing their money into something that eventually doesn't do well. And for this very reason, it's why I actually only put my money towards the top 3 currently cryptocurrencies that I personally believe in. And that includes Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, and for me, one sort of outlier, which is Civic. And that's because I actually believe in what they're doing. And if you are an investor in general, you should always invest in things that you know about or that you've done your due diligence on. But do expect, like the startup ecosystem itself, that there is going to be a 90+% failure rate on a lot of the ICOs that are coming out. And for those of you that are new to this space, ICO stands for Initial Coin Offering, which is similar to an IPO in the startup space, which is an initial public offering. So a lot of times folks are like, ooh, you know, is this ICO thing here to stay? The digital world always very much replicates a lot of the real world stuff that we have. So it just gets mapped over, but done differently and catered to a new type of technology and setup. So when it comes to that, with the ICOs and the success of these cryptocurrencies and a lot of these altcoins, really the key dates you're wanting to pay attention to are going to be between February to March of next year. Over the next 1 to 2 months, it's probably a good time to start investing in a few of your, I guess, a few of the cryptocurrencies that you like and you've done your research on. I am also going to mention an ICO that has come out that is backed by Roger Ver, who's also known as Bitcoin Jesus, who's also a strong supporter of Bitcoin Cash. But I suggest you have a look at it yourself. It's called Naga. And what they're doing, they've already kind of validated their product, so they've got something out. They already have billions of dollars worth of trade volume taking place right now. And these guys are, they're opening out their ICO pre-sale tomorrow, Monday, and I'm going to be putting some money into them. And, you know, once again, this is not financial advice. Please do your own research. But I do think it would be worth you checking out because we are going to see some really cool new players come out in the new year. It's going to be like a burst of new energy in 2018, and I really look forward to that. But right now is a great time to sort of lay your foundations, do your research, educate yourself, and put your money, whether it's, the good thing about cryptocurrencies, you don't have to put in large volumes of money. You can put in little bits as well, because then you get to have a little taste as to what it's like for traditional investors or institutional investors, and then make your way up if that's something that you're interested in. So, but if you're not interested, it's okay. So I would suggest taking a look at the Naga coin. That's what it's going to be called. And also generally in terms of what I'm doing at the moment, I've kind of gone backwards. I'm someone who really enjoys just learning, and I guess when something grabs me, I do obsess over it a little bit. People who are close to me will know that I can't talk about anything else right now other than cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin Cash. But it's also allowed me to learn naturally on my own about the share markets, how stocks work, how to read charts. So I found this really cool article because I see a lot of these type of charts or people analyzing charts on Twitter. And, I looked at it and I go, that's really interesting. How are they analyzing? So I went out onto Google and started researching myself because I actually do like spotting patterns in nature in general, signs, symbols, omens, those sort of things. So why not try and do it in this space as well? So here we've got, a whole bunch of different patterns with names on them that I didn't know about before, but now I'll be able to add to my own vocabulary and knowledge. Anissa, guys, thanks for tuning in and thanks for the thumbs up. We've been having some technical difficulties before, but thanks for joining in. With these particular charts, this is what I'm starting to learn and understand more of. Next week, I'll hopefully be able to tell you a little bit more about what I've learned. But, right now I'm spending a good number of hours just going knee deep into all this. Not even knee deep, neck deep, or maybe drowning, I don't know. But it is definitely a lot of unhealthy hours, but it's exciting to me. I really, really enjoy it. And so that's what I've been kind of looking into recently to increase my own vocabulary and increase my own understanding of this entire space. I'm just fortunate enough that I did make a good call with Bitcoin Cash. And as I mentioned in my previous sermon, those of you who did also benefit from that, well, we had some really good donations take place in the last Sunday sermon. Remember, the religious themes are for entertainment purposes only. Now, finally, just to wrap up before I go into sort of a Q&A with you guys, I am also listening to the audiobook for this particular book called Principles by Ray Dalio. And if you don't know who Ray Dalio is, he is one of the world's most successful investors and entrepreneurs. He's also been known as kind of like the Steve Jobs of the investing world. And what was really interesting is that this book came to me while the whole Bitcoin Cash price was going crazy last weekend or the weekend before. I think it was last weekend. And everything that he was talking about, what he was doing in his life, is actually quite similar for me right now at this point in my life. So I'm really taking a lot of notes from Ray Dalio right now in terms of what he learned and how I can apply that in my own life. And crazily enough, he also talks about the importance of studying nature. And I've always really been into nature-based themes as well. Really, this is just my bonsai, but nature is an important part of our connection to the world, and I think it's important that we do not. One thing I'm passionate about is ensuring that we do not obsess too much about our technology so much that we lose our connection to Mother Nature, and I'm dead serious about that. So as I, do more and more in this cryptocurrency space, and I learn more, and I make money or whatever. I do look forward to being able to give back as well to help reconnect us to the nature part of ourselves, because I know, and I've experienced this myself, we can become so entrenched in the technology side that we feel disconnected. So we're supposed to be more connected than ever, but we still feel disconnected. So this is definitely a book that I recommend you check out or buy the audiobook for if you are interested in the investment side, or even understanding the minds and the viewpoints and the underlying belief systems of folks who have been in the investing space, because that is going to map over to cryptocurrencies. But of course there are some of you who might not want to do that at all. You might just want to pay somebody else to help give you recommendations. But always remember, when you're doing that, you are always responsible for your own financial decisions. If you are ever going to pay somebody else to help you out with these sort of things, they will still be giving you their recommendations, but it was still your choice and your decision to hand that over to somebody else. I'm a huge believer in you always taking responsibility for your own actions in life, and that carries itself over into the cryptocurrency space as well. Jess, I'm glad to see that you like Ray Dalio as well. I had heard his name before, but didn't really do much research into him. So, yeah, I'm enjoying his work. All right, so that does conclude. Let me just go back to video mode. All right, so that does conclude the sermon for today. This is our second sermon. I will be doing this on a weekly basis. Last weekend, we actually had a donation round where I actually shared my Bitcoin Cash address. And for those who have, been fortunate enough or have already set up their own Bitcoin Cash account, they were able to send through some funds over, just I guess as a thank you for sharing some of this information. I'm going to put it into the chat window just in case if anybody does want to try their hand at sending Bitcoin Cash. If you haven't, it's okay. It's donation based. It doesn't really matter. But as I do more of these, I do hope to help others learn more about this space and also sift through a lot of the chaos right now that's taking place. So just as an example, let me bring up the address so you know what it looks like. I can actually explain a little bit about how the cryptocurrency addresses look and work. So I'll just log in. Give me 1 second. And also, this is also a good time, I guess, to open for Q&A. So if there are any of you who have any questions that you'd like me to ask, I guess over the next 7 minutes, now's a good time. And it could be anything at all. Just while I have a look at this address. And I hope I'm actually speaking to people and not just myself with this, because otherwise that'd be hella awkward. All right. Gonna try doing this. Let's try. All right. So right there, that's a Bitcoin Cash address. So if you have set up a wallet before, then no worries, Jess. If you have set up a Bitcoin Cash address, that is what the address will look like, and you'd essentially just send funds directly to that address. So I'm gonna leave that up there just for fun. And if you want to play with this as well, I'm more than happy to. If you have a wallet set up, I will send you. I'll send you, like a couple dollars as well, so you can see what it's like to receive. Because that's actually how Bitcoin started. It wasn't necessarily about the money. The money came. And, this is why I have a hashtag, it will come philosophy as well. That when you have a strong vision and you have the right elements around you, that the money comes as a result of the work that you do. So, yeah, if you're interested also in receiving some Bitcoin Cash, then comment away, let me know, private message me, whatever. I'm cool that way. But I hope you did get some value out of this today. This is the first time using Ecamm, so you might notice that I was able to get like a watermark right in the top right with BWC, and I was able to get my name at the bottom. It was pretty smooth, so except for some internet connection issues, I think I'll probably be using this again in the future. But yeah, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed yourself. For those who just got on, this is George C. Samuels, aka the Bitcoin Preacher now. Probably should put Bitcoin parentheses Cash Preacher. And next week, I'll schedule up the next Sunday sermon. And of course, if you have any feedback, please share it. Things that you'd like to see more of, things that you'd like me to answer or cover. And yeah, we'll go from there. So if we're all good for today, guys, enjoy your Sunday, and we shall speak soon.